So foreign relations law is a combination of both international law and U.S. domestic law, but U.S. domestic law that affects foreign relations in one way or another. And there are complicated interactions between international law and U.S. domestic law.
A big piece of the U.S. domestic law is constitutional law, separation of powers, judicial capacity. One of the things that the Second Restatement did, I think, was legitimize the idea that courts had a role in this. I think right after World War II, there was a sense this was for the political branches and courts had a more passive approach. The message of the Second Restatement was actually the judges have a lot to say about this. I think it's the beginning in a widespread way of the use of the term foreign relations law of the United States. There'd been a few political scientists who had written with that term in the past, but this was the first mainstreaming of the concept.
It proved to be quite useful to courts and to lawyers, in part because it's an area of law that not a lot of judges know much about. And so I think it made its mark in that way.
Every piece of it is a fast-moving target. I mean, international law is responding to changes in the international environment. You would think the Constitution is stable and framed in 1789 and all that, but in fact, the separation of powers is a very dynamic process, and particularly as it reflects foreign relations. And then the domestic law that affects international transactions changes as rapidly as the international environment, not the least the international business environment.
But at the same time, the Fourth Restatement also does look back. They recite some very old cases in the reporter's notes. And one of the challenges was sometimes to integrate and try to make consistent in particular sections law that had changed over time, and then figure out how those different pieces are working together today. So there is, it's not just a snapshot of what the world looks like right now. It reflects its history.
Well, I'm a lot older than Bill, so the Third Restatement did not exist when I was a student. But certainly in my scholarly work and in my teaching, first, the third, now the Fourth Restatement is an important part of some of the things I do. In fact, I have to say, in my casebook, I'm sure it's true of Bill's as well, we've paid a fair amount of royalties to the ALI for quoting from the Restatement of Foreign Relations Law.
Yeah, well, I'm a lot younger than Paul is, but yes, I particularly early in my career, when the Third Restatement was relatively new and relatively recent, I thought it was a wonderful source to go to collect information on things that I didn't know a great deal about. And this semester, I'm teaching a course in international litigation, and I actually am assigning my students some of the provisions of the Restatement. And sometimes asking them whether we got it right based on what they've read. Sometimes the answer is yes.